people can think that you're doing better or worse based on what you post. And if you haven't posted in a long time, like, oh, he's not doing anything with his life. Um, or, if you post all the time, oh, why do you post so much? Or you're posting, fancy cars, you're posting, all these different things, which I don't necessarily think is inherently bad, but people will judge you off that. Yo, 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 what is going on, guys? It is your boy Cam back here with another Cam Chronicles episode, man. I want to say it feels like it's been a minute because it just feels like it's been about 2 weeks since I recorded the podcast. Um, but you all have seen an episode every week, I recorded podcast with my last guest. I recorded that super early on. I think it was like a day after that Sunday that I posted a personal podcast. So it just seems like it's been a long time for me. For you all, it's been every week. So um, yeah. How are you all doing, man? Let me know in the comments. I don't know. I haven't heard from y'all in a bit. Let me know in the comments how you are doing, how you guys are enjoying the podcast. Um, what would you like to see in the podcast? I got some plans. Obviously, we're gonna be changing it up. I'm going back to school here in a few weeks. Um, so I got some big things planned, some new people, and I'll finally be able to kind of connect with maybe an in-person podcast with a guest or multiple guests on the podcast at the same time. So I'm looking forward to those changes. Let me know if there's something that you see that's missing. Some of those things will just come naturally as I have a little bit more time to work on the podcast because I won't really necessarily be working. But and then I'll just be a little bit more diligent in being um, proactive in making the stream, not the stream, the podcast better. I have been not gonna lie, I've been kind of sedentary in terms of making the podcast better. I'm trying to get, a bunch of new people on, but in terms of the production quality, as you can see, if you've been watching the podcast, it hasn't necessarily increased on the curve that I wanted to. Maybe that's just in my head. Maybe you think it's fine. But I want to get, just some different things going to keep it a little bit more interesting, especially the video version with some things coming on the screen, just a few different little animations, actual proper logo and things like that. So that's all coming. Hopefully within the next month here, the month of August, and then maybe a few of those changes will spill over into September. But hopefully I'll get that up and running to the production quality that I want, and I can always add on to it. Um, but yeah, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. Little life update for me. I can't speak. Like I said, I'm about to go back to college. If you don't know, if this is the first podcast you're watching, um, I attend Penn State University. I took a semester off um, from Penn State to kind of just focus. I kind of wanted to see what I wanted to do with YouTube. That was the original thing of why I took this break. And also because I didn't want to be paying so much for not being at Penn State. Um, so I was just paying, so much money. Having my parents pay money and myself going to debt um, to not be at Penn State. So I just thought that wasn't the best use of time and money at that point. And I kind of use that time to plan out what I wanted to do for YouTube, and also just make a good chunk of change by just working all this entire summer and also and from January to now. So I think that was a good decision. I don't really have a problem with it at all. I think that there was something in my mind that was like, oh, you're gonna be behind. And I technically am behind. Um, but it's like the whole thing was, "Oh, you're gonna be behind because 'cause you're gonna be behind other people," and it's like, "Yo, you're not living other people's life," It's like people are gonna do what they need to do, for their sorry, man. My, phone was blowing up right there. People are gonna do what they need to do for their own life, and I can't just live by everybody else's life. I think it was a good decision for me, and if I'm behind, I actually don't think I will be behind because I wanna get out of college as soon as possible, so probably gonna be, take a semester. I'm gonna just replace a semester that I just skipped or took a break from in the summer of 2022. So I'll probably be in college until I graduate. Um, just meaning I won't really have a break. I'll be in college from when I go back all the way until 2023 end of the spring. Um, so that's my plan right now. Any other life update? I mean, this week I kind of took this week off. I did not go to work. What did I do? I did not do too much of anything this week. Um, I just watched a couple of shows that I've been meaning to watch. I took a break. I've been grinding, for a long time, in terms of work and also, YouTube. Um, not as much YouTube, but just a lot of things, that I've said behind the scenes. I'm trying to get, trying to learn about how to create a business through YouTube in terms of like business accounts and how that, how I need to set up that accounting so that things are in the right order. When I do eventually start making money from um, YouTube and things that are connected to it. Um, and just, with looking at how I would do merch, different logos, redesigning the stream for 1,000 subscribers, because I know once I actually do this big push here, at the end of August, beginning of September, I'm consistently putting out content on all of my platforms. I know that they'll be here sooner than I think. And I'm excited for that. But I want to be ready. I want to be prepared to grow with my community. And I don't want to be scrambling for that because I know um, it won't. I won't be prepared, and I know that I won't necessarily have the time to get in everything right at that moment. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is planning. A lot of it is stuff that you don't see behind the scenes. Um, but, that's why I have the podcast to tell you about these things, to tell you about a little bit about the business side or whatever it is. So, I will be doing some videos on like kind of explaining my process on how I figured out these business things once I figure them out. Cuz I don't want to give you false information. But just showing you how I did it. It's probably not the best way to do it, but just maneuvering through and then also giving you tips on how like where I messed up. Like, oh, I could have just watched this video and known how to do it, or I could have opened this account and whatever it is. So that is that's a life update. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of something. I feel like there was something else. Let me look at my list here. Um, for okay, all right. Well, we have some interesting topics. I think for this week, as always, I say that every week, but hopefully they're interesting to you. Um, I in terms of we got to do the content. What did I say? Content piece of the week. So content piece of the week. I try to put that segment into the podcast every time I do a personal episode. But the content piece of the week um, is gonna be a documentary, quote unquote, kind of video by a person named James Janney. And I've mentioned him on the channel before, or on the podcast before, but basically he is a YouTuber that kind of grew to stardom really quickly. When I say stardom, I just mean the popularity in terms of subscribers. But very quickly over the 2020 quarantine. And what he did was basically he created this style of video where it's basically a documentary, but it's just a short documentary, between 15 to 20 minutes, or maybe, some of his videos are maybe 30 to 40 minutes. But just very short documentaries, that cover internet or online or YouTube um, topics, whether that be money, whether that be like a certain creator. He follows a certain creator and makes a documentary on them. Um, and I've just found his content very similar to what I want to create in the future. I really like the documentary theme. I love to watch documentaries. Man, there's something. In my eye. Sorry. Um, all right, there we go. Um, I like to watch documentaries, and so I was just very interested in his content. But the content piece of the week is gonna be a video, and I will link it in the top right hand of your screen here. I promise I will actually link it. I know I say that sometimes. I don't link the video because I'm just too tired. I just put the video. I just put the podcast out. Um, but I think it's called like something to do with the gurus, the internet gurus, money gurus of the YouTube space or online space. It's basically just detailing how these gurus that you may see and some of these ads that are saying, "Oh, Are you tired of working a 9 to 5? Let's just get you millions of dollars this year because everybody can do this. It goes into the in depth how that is, most of what they do and promote is a scam, and how basically anybody with given the right circumstances can fall for a scam. And I actually, if you want to hear about my story with um, kind of that road in the MLM, multi-level marketing scheme, and those companies like Vima and what's the Amway? Not Amway. That's the train company. What is it called? You know what I'm talking about, but maybe you don't. I don't know. But companies like that are multi-level marketing companies that basically just try to get you to have a product, or just get people under you so that they can start paying you and they pay you residual income. Companies like that. If you want to hear my story about that, I actually have a whole podcast about it. So hopefully I'll link that in the top left hand over your right hand of your corner or of your screen for you to go watch. Um, Super interesting, I would say, but I just always took myself as somebody that wouldn't necessarily get scammed by these people, but like I said, I stand corrected, definitely, and I don't say it just because I got scammed. I don't, hold myself to a higher standard than everybody else. I'm just saying that even when you are trying to be cautious, even when you are aware that these things are happening to people, it still is possible that you can, mistakenly get sucked in by one of these scams, and just not even realize it. So if you want to see that story, go ahead and click that podcast. But I will also, I also linked the video that he talked about, um, or where he was talking about those people, and I think it's a good um, video to watch for anybody in college and in high school. I think high school it's not as prevalent for you to be, obviously you're trying to make money, but you probably don't have a lot of money to spend on the courses that these gurus are giving. So, in college, you might be making your first couple $1,000 bucks. And then you're like, yo, I want to learn how to get rich like these people. So I might pay $200, $300 for their course. Um, so yeah, go watch that video on why you should not do that. And come back here in the comment section and start a discussion about it. Or start a discussion in his chat. Yeah. Either way. But yeah, I thought that was a really good content piece of the week. I had another content piece of the week for you, but I forgot about it. But I will give you this, another piece of content that I thought was pretty cool. Not anything necessarily too informative. Just a TV show. I know most people know about it, but I was very skeptical on it. I didn't think it was going to be that good. But I did start watching the first season of Outer Banks, and I know a lot of like I said, people knew about the show. But if you were on the fence, I'm telling you, definitely go watch the show. And even if you're like, I don't really think I like that show, just watch the first 1 or 2 episodes and see. I think it's definitely a good investment. This is coming from somebody that's very picky about my shows, excuse me. But I, yeah, I thought it was very good. Actually one of the best shows I've seen in a minute. Especially with the whole mystery thriller kind of vibe of the show. So definitely check it out. My guy, one of my friends is telling me, actually that's why my phone's blowing up. He was just saying that he watched season 2 and it was amazing. So yeah, the show's pretty good. Go watch it as a little extra bonus content piece of the week here. All right, what's the next topic here? I don't have my notes on my computer like I usually do. All right, okay. So this is a topic that I was kind of I okay. So let me preface this. I in this week that I kind of took off, I found this streamer by the name of Dr. K, I think. And his YouTube is called Healthy Gamer GG. And basically he's like a psychiatrist. He's like 37, 38 years old. And he streams on Twitch. And he talks to Twitch streamers, talks to random viewers, and just tries to help them kind of see their problems or, work through things. And I just found it pretty interesting, especially because I can kind of relate a little bit to maybe some of the issues streamers might be having, just because I kind of understand the space a little bit and I'm in the space. Um, so I was watching his, one of his streams or, one of his VODs. And he was talking about how, I think a person that was talking to him was talking about how it's hard having a career that's online or a life that's online because everybody feels that they can have an opinion on that life. And I really felt that, and I wanted to bring it to the podcast and talk about it a little bit. Um, and I feel that this can resonate on some level for everybody that if you use social media, if you don't use social media, maybe it doesn't resonate. But if you do use social media, and so for me, given my take on the issue, I can definitely relate um, to how it feels. It's very interesting how people all of a sudden, because you put your life online, people feel that they can have, just an increased say in what you do in your life. Or, just um, they may think that you are doing better or worse in life just because of your online presence, and they might have a comment on that. For example, um, one thing that I am like, I'm on the fence if I appreciate or if it's kind of annoying, but there'll be friends that I have that are like, "Oh, why haven't you posted a video in forever? Why haven't you done this? Oh, you gotta improve on this." And I do appreciate, constructive criticism. I love it because, I know that it hurts sometimes. It's like, I get it, but it ultimately, makes my content 1,000 times better, and that's what I'm here for, to get better. So, if that's what's gotta, come to me, before I make that content better, that's cool. But people also, feel that that you are doing, that you aren't doing very well or that you're doing worse just because they haven't seen a video out, or they don't know things that are going behind the scenes. And so it's like with them, where their life isn't necessarily fully online. I'm like, oh, why haven't you applied to that internship? Why haven't you, why haven't you done this work for your class yet? It's like it's kind of like the equivalent to that. But I obviously wouldn't ask them because their life isn't online, so I wouldn't know. Their success in life can't be measured by me just from the outside looking in because I don't know. I don't have that online presence. But for me, it feels that people can measure that success from the outside looking in because they're looking at my YouTube, and they feel that my life is online. And I don't necessarily feel that they're crossing a line. It's just something different and a different perspective that you have to think about, and then also ignore it sometimes. It's like, they're just asking if you posted a video or whatever. It's not gonna mean something different, but it's something that you have to get used to. And people, yeah, the main thing is that people will think you are doing, mainly worse, but either better or worse based on well, I don't know. Better or worse based on what you're putting online, and how often you're uploading or how quote unquote successful you are in the amount of time that you have been working on projects. So I just thought that was an interesting topic to bring to the channel, and I feel like relating it back to people that are just use social media. Um, People can think that you're doing better or worse based on what you post. And if you haven't posted in a long time, like, oh, he's not doing anything with his life. Um, or, if you post all the time, oh, why do you post so much? Or you're posting, fancy cars, you're posting, all these different things, which I don't necessarily think is inherently bad, but people will judge you off that. Um, and yeah, it's a very interesting perspective of our life in this society today. And I just wanted to bring it to the channel to see what you all thought about it. But to also to give my own perspective and how I feel about the matter on the podcast. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about that. But the next topic we got is the corporate world. I was having a conversation with my parents about the corporate world, and I think we were talking about just people that make a lot of money, they are paid, I don't know necessarily CEOs, but people that make a lot of money that are under the CEO, that they're making 500 grand, they're making 500 to 700 grand, a year. And what that life is like and why those people don't retire from that job. And so if I see somebody making 500, $700,000 a year, to me, I'm like, well, you should be retired in a certain amount of years. Like, and I understand that people like to work. Like, I mean, obviously, if you retire at 30, you're gonna find something to do with your life, and that's probably gonna be work. It's gonna be it might not be working for a corporation. If you retire, you do your own thing, start your own business, whatever it is that you want to do, and it might be working for free, whatever it is, but you're gonna find a purpose with your life, right? So I understand if you want to stay in the job. For longer. You just want to stay on the job just because, hey, I enjoy doing this job. This is truly what I enjoy doing every single day. But my thing is, how haven't you put away enough money to just basically make somewhere around that salary every single year based on like interest off of millions of dollars that you've saved up? And so we were having this conversation how basically, these people aren't necessarily living paycheck to paycheck. Of course, I mean they're making 500 to $700,000 a year. Even with a family of four, you're still winning. Yeah, obviously you're pretty well off. As what I'm pretty sure the median salary is around $50,000, maybe. So my question was, how can't they retire earlier? Why are there 60-year-olds, 55-year-olds, 45-year-olds making this kind of money, and they've been making this kind of money for a long time? Why aren't they just retiring and doing something else? Is this truly what they love, or what's happening there? And so, my dad and my mom, were kind of explaining how like when you are in a certain bracket or tax bracket or, you know, wealth group, you have to, dress and look the part. And of course, that's self-explanatory. I understand that, but they're like, yo, yeah, you buy you buy the top of the line bins, to kind of fit in, with your this group that you are now in um because you make this money. And you do that not necessarily just to fit in because of ego and everything, but to fit in to keep the respect of others, to keep the respect of others in that circle so that you can continue to make that money. And they were explaining, like, yeah, I mean, if you are just driving, let's say a Toyota Camry, and, it's like a 2015 Toyota Camry, you're like, bro, this thing is going to last another 10 years. I get 300,000 miles, 400,000 miles out of this thing. Um, they don't want that image. A CEO or people higher than you or people that are on the same level of you don't want that image associated with them as if you don't get paid. Especially the people that are higher than you that are supposed to be paying you. It creates the image in their mind and I guess the society that they aren't really paying you enough because you don't have a third house in Malibu or you don't have that Range Rover that just came out 2 days ago. And so I really don't agree with that um, way of thinking at all. And I'm not saying that that isn't somewhat the reality in the world that we live in, but I just think that's completely foolish. And so we were kind of having, I don't think we were having necessarily an argument. We were just having a conversation because I think they agreed. But I think their stance was that it is still that way today. And I feel like with I don't know, what generation it is. I feel that somebody could be in that position and not have, all these things that are quote unquote required to have that house, to have these nice cars. Just save money and be like, yo, this is what I'm gonna do, and not have to worry about getting fired or getting kicked out of those circles. And maybe I haven't been in those circles, so I can't necessarily speak um, full truth because I haven't even touched some of those circles. Um, but I just think that the idea of just having, lavish things and having to have a house that's grand so I can host people for coffee or evening drinks, just to me, it's yeah, it's just foolish. There's no other word to me. Basically, you could be saving all of this money that you don't need to be spending, right now. You could just put that away in a bank account, stack up a couple million. I mean, really, if you're working for quite a minute, you could stack up, anywhere from 2 to $7 million. I mean, $2 to $10 million, depending on how long you want to work. And say you've been making that since 35. You could retire very easily and probably easier than that if you really cut down. If you're making $700,000 a year, you can save, I feel, $500,000. 700, I mean, you can save $500,000 and still live a excellent life. That's $200,000 for a family of 4. Anyway, if you're saving that money and get a couple $1,000,000 in the bank, live excuse me. Man, hey, let me get some water, man. I've never noticed that, well, I do notice. I always notice that talking so much is just makes your throat dry, but it always comes when I least expect it. Anyway, as I was saying, you can put a couple million aside, basically just save, don't spend a whole bunch of money. You can still live, middle class, very comfortably making 500 to $700,000 a year, and still put away 300 to $500,000 worth of that income. Obviously, that isn't necessarily true with taxes, and maybe you have a charitable donation that you always make. So let's say 200, $300 of that income, um, and you put that away, that becomes millions of dollars, and then you can live off the interest of those millions of dollars. And you can do that within a span of 10 to 15 years, which would mean that you're retired by 40, 45, and you don't necessarily have to worry about any of that. And if you are actually investing that money and you're not just solely trying to put it in the bank, you can make that much quicker, right? I mean, if you know anything about investing, and even if you're doing real estate, I mean, if you have that much money, you're gonna find ways to, use that money and make your money make money for you, right? So I feel like it's very easy in that position to do so, just with saving the right amount of money, and then you can be retired. You don't have to worry about that. Then your salary is now coming in without any work. And you can live the life that you were quote unquote supposed to be living, without the stress of having to work all the time for this income, to get 500 to $700,000. You can get that from interest, or you can get that from dividends, from investing, or you can get that through your real estate, that you own. So it's I just wanted to know your perspective on that, but I thought it was, I don't know, something interesting, maybe, to bring to the podcast, and something, I don't know. I just think this world has a lot of things that we tell ourselves are true when it's just like, no, you don't have to do that. And as you can probably tell if you've watched a couple of my podcasts, I'm not a huge fan of the corporate world. I do not think that the corporate world is for me specifically. That doesn't mean that I won't work a job. I might have to work a job in corporate, or maybe I find it great. Maybe I find a section of corporate that's for me, you know. Um, but I just don't think the stigma and the things that come with corporate, um, I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. I like to do my own thing. I don't like to have somebody directing me to where I want to go. Um, and I don't wanna have to report to anybody or depend on anybody else for my money. And I know, it is good to depend on some people and branch out and have relationships and network. That's not what I'm talking about necessarily. I just want to be the head of deciding how I'm gonna make my money and which incomes are going to be high and which incomes are gonna be, are gonna take the back seat for now. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. I think corporate is just very interesting, man. It's a very interesting place. Um, and that's kind of one of the reasons that I started this podcast, to explain how that isn't the only way. It isn't the only way. I was talking to, actually, my barber, um, the yesterday, I think. I got a haircut. And I was talking to him, and he was telling me how, like, yeah, since 18 he's had a business. He's had multiple businesses, and he's been cutting hair since he was 18 or before that. He's has a trucking company now. He has all these different businesses that he started, and he's very well off. I mean, he's 40, 40 years old, something, around there. Um, and it's like, yeah, he just didn't want to go the corporate route. He had all his businesses. Obviously, he had to do his own accounting or hire somebody to do so. Um, but I was just like, yeah, I really respect that hustle, and I respect the hustle of corporate as well. But I just for that creating your own business side being what I necessarily want to do, like I can really appreciate, his diligence in that. And then also it's just his story. I really think people's stories are interesting. Um, and I won't get too far into that, but yeah, it's cool to see people that have, especially that are older. It's not just, the 20-year-olds that are like, oh yeah, I got $1 million in stock trading, blah 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 blah, short this, sell that, whatever it is. Um, so yeah. I don't know how you felt about that topic. Let me know what you think about the corporate world down in the description. Um, all right, the last topic I wanted to talk about was mental health here. Um, like I said that I had found that guy that was it was I think his name is Dr. K. And he goes by Healthy Gamer GG. I believe on YouTube and Twitch. I haven't necessarily watched one of his streams live. Just been kind of watching his recordings of his streams that he posts on YouTube. Um, but I just wanted to take a minute, and this is gonna kind of transition into the Cam Chronicles. Um, but just to talk about, a little, just touch base on mental health. I think it's gonna be an important thing um, throughout this podcast because I think that some people can be. Well, I think everybody will be, but hopefully not everybody. I don't want it to be a challenge. I don't want you to struggle with your mental health. But I think a lot of people do struggle with their mental health in general, as well as when they are trying to start something like this. YouTube, start their business, whatever it is, because there's a lot of things. It isn't just starting a business. A lot of people aren't in the space where they're just starting this business and they're starting a YouTube where they already have securities, as in they already know, that they're going to be able to pay for apartments and, they don't have problems with money. It isn't just a fun thing to do. It's like you're looking at it like, yes, this is a fun thing. Yes, I do enjoy this, but I'm also looking for it to kind of generate some income so that I can live the life that I want to live comfortably, whether that be middle income, or maybe you want to shoot for a higher income. And so I do want to first, uh, I want to preface that statement. I just said that I do believe that if you are only doing this for the money, and if you are a content creator and you only do this for the money, um, I think that you will either have to follow trends. You either have to just follow trends and do what other people are doing and kind of get on that wave, or you're not going to make it. And I say that, I say the second one more likely that you won't make it. And it's just because of the work that it takes to continue to do something without seeing results. I know I talked about that quote from Kevin Hart. It might not be specifically from him, but just a rendition or whatever that he said, talking about how you have to be willing to get up every morning, um, go through a full work day, and wake up tomorrow morning, do the same thing without seeing results from the first day of working or the last day of work. So I think that the people that want to see instant money out of this, or they are doing it purely to earn money, um, most people that are like that aren't going to make that. But that's kind of going off on a separate tangent. I just wanted to reiterate that. I'm sure I've said that on another podcast. Anyway, going back to mental health. Um, I think that a lot of people struggle with mental health in the terms of when they're starting a business, they have something to prove. And that might be, whether that is to whom that is, um, that's a stressor. It's a stressor to be like, I want to make this kind of growth within this year or within this X amount of time frame. Um, and it can be really hard when you don't see progress. Or you just don't have the energy to do all the things that you want to do to put into the business. Um, and you might put yourself under duress because you're like, hey, I gotta achieve this by a certain time. Um, in your life, and I don't necessarily mean time frame, but it is really a time frame. I just mean like a certain age. Oh, I want to achieve this by 25. I want to achieve this by 23, you know. And then when you don't hit that, it can be kind of, it can be detrimental to your mental, especially if you haven't kind of stepped back and looked at the work that you have done, and appreciated it. And I know I was also talking about in the last podcast, my guest, how it's vital that you celebrate the small victories. Um, and I want to let you know, I always try to be transparent with this stuff that I'm telling you things that I'm actively working through, but I have learned that they are the right thing for most people to do. So, in terms of celebrating the small victories, I'm not even close to fully doing that myself. I still am like, oh, I didn't hit that mark. I'm beating myself up because I didn't hit a certain mark in money. for working the last 7 months? How about patting yourself on the back that you did that? You got up every day and that you did that, you know? Nobody was forcing well, for my specific situation, nobody's really forcing me to go to work. I just, it wasn't like I had to show up, I had to clock in. It was all my decision to do that. So just patting myself on the back that I did that. But also I was looking, it's funny because I was looking through the podcast that I've made so far. I think this is episode 22, maybe. If not, yeah, I think it's 22. But I was looking at the podcast that I made. I was just looking at the progression of the thumbnails and the people that I've had on, and it just made me really smile. Like I was like, wow, maybe I don't have more than 10 views on some of these podcasts, but um I really did that. Like I put in the work, and I've been very consistent with this podcast, with only missing 1 week, within 5 to 6 months. So I'm proud of that aspect. Um, and yeah, it's just something to always remember to do, and to train yourself to do, because if you don't, you will start to beat yourself up unnecessarily, and that can severely affect your mental health. So I just advise against that. A word to the wise. Um, but let's see, some other things I wanted to talk about here. Um, hmm, yeah, okay. I wanted to talk about this point that Dr. K, the person I said that I found that he talked about in terms of maybe you have this, maybe you don't, but I definitely have in my mind um a switch that is saying that I always should be doing something, or that I should do something this way. Um, it's like I'm never satisfied with where I am at, and I think that is a good trait for some measures, but it can also affect your mental health very severely, as I was saying before. If you always believe that who you are as a person is not enough, it can become very unhealthy very fast, because you're always trying to create something new instead of just allowing that person to exist, and to grow as it pleases. And that can be something super hard that I haven't even, I mean, I just heard it a few days ago. I watched, one of his streams a few days ago. So, um, that is something that I haven't even started to begin to grasp, but to allow yourself to be content where you are for a second. Um, and I think I've kinda did that. I think I did a decent job doing that this week, because I was trying to push myself. I was like, "Oh, I need to work this week, and I need to make this amount of money, blah, 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 blah. I'm already ahead of schedule, but if I make even more money, I'll be even more ahead of schedule." And it's just like, it's always, "I should be doing this, and I should have a YouTube video, and why haven't I posted on this? And I should reach out to this person." And it's just that way of thinking. It's like you gotta stop and be still. You gotta stop and be still, and just kinda be one with yourself. I know that sounds kinda spiritual or whatever, but just be, it's not even just proud of yourself, it's just it's not stagnant. A word that he used, Dr. K used, was bliss. And it's not necessarily, extreme happiness. It's not sadness. It's just content with being where you are. And just allowing yourself to be like, all right, I'm just gonna take a break. And you can use that time to plan, but don't use some of that time to plan, but also just chill out. Take a break. You've been doing a lot, or maybe you haven't been doing a lot. Maybe that's just time to reevaluate, or maybe it's time to reevaluate. Number one, why you haven't been doing a lot. That doesn't mean that you have to do more. Is it, hey, am I content with where I'm at? And I just want to keep doing what I'm doing and just live my life? Because if that's where you're at, then that's where you're at. It's like you don't there isn't a need to constantly improve if you're already at a point that you're satisfactory. And I think that's where sometimes I can get ahead of myself. I'm like, wait, I am ahead of the curve, but I'm also at a point where I can stay for a second. I can be content for a second and just kind of enjoy the fruits of my labor right here for a second. I don't have to be always improving. I don't have to stress my body out every single day, to levels that are just unprecedented. Um, Meaning that it's going to result in, unhealthy mental for the next, maybe that's a week, maybe that's a month. So, I mean, I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but the fact is to number one, protect your mental health, um, and don't be afraid to get help. That's the thing. Don't be afraid to get help. Protect your mental health, and just pause for a second and think about what you actually want to do with your life, and appreciate what you've done so far to get yourself to that goal. And if you haven't done anything to get to that goal, then think about where you wanna what things that you wanna do to get to that goal and be patient with yourself. That's the biggest thing. Being patient with yourself. It's gonna be a lot of things, because I'm sure everybody watching this has probably something in mind that's very ambitious, um, or that's gonna take a lot of, steps to get to, and maybe years to get to. Um, but you can't just be only looking for that moment at the top of the hill. Because if you look at the top of the hill and you make a step and you look at the top of the hill again, you're not going to realize that you made progress. You have to be focused on the steps. And when you look at the steps, you'll realize that you're one step further, and then you can celebrate that win and you can continue to make steps. And that eventually the top that you're looking up to will get closer. So that's kind of like a cam cheat code in itself. But yeah, I just try to find, regurgitate and also tell you information that I've learned, whether it be self reflection or through other people. Because I don't think, I definitely try to give credit for whatever advice that I have. That's why, I talked about Dr. K and the Kevin Hart little advice um, of where I got that to. So, number one, if you want to go to the source and get more advice from those people, but I I just don't think it matters how you get the advice sometimes, as long as I'm not going around claiming I'm a mental health expert or um, I don't know. I don't know. As long as I'm not going around claiming these people's advice, um, I just think that some people need to hear it. So I wanted to share it with you, and it helped me. So I feel that um, it would be a disservice not to tell people about it and then tell people about the people that said it originally. um, so yeah, hopefully you can kind of take that to heart. And hopefully it helped you, maybe. But the cam cheat of the cheat code of the week is it is a light one, and it, like I said, it kind of does tie in exactly with what I was talking about with mental health, but it is to stay persistent. And I know it's a light, piece of advice, but it can be it can be very hard. It's something that is a light piece of advice, a light piece of advice that we all know about, but is very, very hard to do when you're actually in the thick of it. And when you're trying to achieve that goal and you're halfway there, or maybe you're a tenth of the way there, like I just said about the whole stepping, step analogy. It's very hard to um it's very hard to keep going and to keep trying to get to that goal, even though you know you want it more than anything, because it's so easy to just stop and stay stagnant at where you are. And that doesn't necessarily tie into where I was saying stay, kind of be one with yourself and kind of reevaluate, or um just live life for a second. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, when there's a certain thing that you want to achieve, and you have to be doing certain things to achieve that goal. Maybe it's just like to give you an example, just working out. Oh, I want to have a six pack. If if you've been on a diet and you've been doing this for 15 days, you've been going to the gym every day for 15 days, and then you fall off the wagon, and you just go directly back into eating junk food, you're not going to the gym. That's way easier than saying, "Hey, I'm gonna break a little bit. I'm gonna maybe I drink a soda, I eat a piece of candy, but I'm gonna get back out the next day and I'm gonna be back at the gym." So just being persistent. Obviously, you're gonna take some steps back, or you're gonna take, there are gonna be some steps where you're just stagnant there for a while. But don't let that stop you from actually getting to where you want to be at. Because trust me, if it's the thing that you said that you wanted, it's gonna be worth it, whatever you're trying to achieve for yourself. And you have to make sure it's for yourself and not for other people. But if it is truly for yourself, it is going to be worth it to stay persistent, and not just fall back down the steps. So yeah, that's a little bit more in depth into the cam cheat code, but hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Um, Next week we got another guest, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. And the episode after that will be um a personal podcast, of course. But the episode after that personal podcast. So next week will be episode 23. 24 will be a personal podcast, and then 25 got something special for you. So that's going to be a pretty, I believe, funny podcast. For you all to laugh at um, the L's that I have taken in life. Um, but I'm basically gonna go through my. I'm not gonna tell you. Actually, I'm not gonna tell you. It's gonna be a great episode. Got some special plan for 25, and I am also still in the process of uploading all my stuff to Spotify and Apple Music. So once I get that up for you, like I said, give me till episode 25. Hopefully, I'll have those links for you. And if it's not up that by then, it'll be up very shortly. It's probably just because of upload time that it wouldn't be out by then. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to like down below if you enjoyed. Share it with a friend. Share the podcast with a friend if if you felt inspired or you just thought a topic was interesting and you want to talk about it with friends. Share it with a friend for me. And also subscribe to the channel if you actually want to watch the content. I'm not gonna, I don't want to force you to watch. That's why I said at the very end, for those that are still watching the podcast, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the podcast or if you enjoyed multiple podcasts. I don't want it to be something, for just a number. I want you to subscribe and actually feel that you get value out of this content and you enjoy it. So subscribe if you feel like that. But with all that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday if you're watching this. I don't know when I'm going to post, but hopefully a little bit earlier on Sunday, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. But yeah, have a great rest of your Sunday. Have a great week, rest of your week, whenever whenever you're watching this. And I'll see you guys in the next one.